Hello, it's George. As promised, I'm going to do a YouTube video showing you guys the guitars I've got. Currently in the state of lockdown, I'm here, not with all my guitars. Some guitars are at another place, but I think I've got probably 2/3 of my guitar collection here, which is about 12 or 14 or so guitars. So let me show you the guitars. I'll pick them off one by one. I'll basically work around. I've got most of the guitars. Well, the ones behind me here are Gibson guitars, which is my favourite guitar manufacturer, because they build the most iconic guitars, in my opinion. So, Les Paul, Flying V, SG. And then I'll walk around some other guitars I've got, like some other Flying Vs, Dean guitars, Chapman guitars, Fender, things like that. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into it. I'll grab guitar number one. The first guitar I want to show you guys is this one, because, well, I want to work around in this order. There's a big loop. This is a 2013 Gibson SG. So this is a Gibson SG standard. I bought this guitar about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It came on an email alert I have for a guitar shop up in Sheffield way called Rich Tone Music. And they're quite a big guitar store, and they always have some cool stuff in. And they had a red SG at a very reasonable price. So I bought the guitar because I already had a black Gibson SG at the time, and I always had an itch for a red one. I think even the red one's probably a bit more iconic. I'm not a fan of the big sort of scratch plate design. I prefer the sort of the half scratch plate sort of design on the SG, but figured as I already had the black SG with that scratch plate, if I was getting one in a different colour, I may as well go for something completely different. So yeah, so it's actually the better playing SG of the two SGs I've got. So this is a 2013. The other Gibson SG I have is a 2017. I don't think it's a lie that Gibson built their guitars slightly better the older they are. I think they're getting back up to terms of quality now, but I think the year that I bought my Gibson SG, 2017, they weren't brilliant. I think they're about to go bankrupt, actually. But yeah, so that's the red Gibson SG 2013 standard model. Yeah, a great guitar to play, one I find myself picking up quite a lot. So I'll come on to this guitar. This was actually my first ever Gibson guitar. I was working for Aston Martin in London at the time, and I had quite a good paycheck. We had a very busy September, sold and delivered a lot of cars, so it's like the biggest paycheck I ever got. And I thought, you know what, you only live once, I'm going to order myself a Gibson. And I'd had Epiphone guitars before, and I had a Fender Strat and things, but I'd never had a proper, fully fledged, American-made Gibson guitar, so I ordered this. This is a 2015 Gibson Les Paul Standard 100th Anniversary Edition. So I think it was a limited run of guitars that they made, and it was quite a special Les Paul because it had a few different sort of features and quirks that you didn't get on any other kind of Les Paul. So first thing that attracted me to it was the colour. So all my heroes grew up as I was growing up. They always played sunburst Gibson Les Pauls. So I knew that if I was going to buy a Gibson Les Paul, it had to be this colour, which is my favourite colour, the red into orange sort of burst with a scratch plate in white, which looks so iconic. But with being a 100th anniversary guitar, it had a few things on it. Some things I like, some things I don't. So one of the things I like is the fact it's got these push-pull-pop sort of control knobs, so you can sort of make the pickup sort of out of phase, and you can sort of give it different sort of tones by sort of pushing and pulling these control knobs, which is quite interesting. A bit like a mod sort of con for a quite traditional guitar. And another thing it's got is this sort of metallic, I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up, but the finish is actually got a metallic gold flake in the paint. You probably can see it more on the back. It's got this beautiful sort of gold flake all over the guitar, right up the neck, right up the headstock. And speaking of the headstock, that was the big difference that I actually wasn't aware of when I bought this guitar, because I ordered it offline. Being a Les Paul 100th edition, that was to celebrate 100 years of Les Paul, because Les Paul would have been 100 years old in 2015. So it comes with this sort of hologram sticker, which is quite cool. But it's also got the sort of the G-Force self-tuning system, which works great in principle. Basically, when the guitar's out of tune, You just hit the button on the back of the headstock, and it goes zzz, and it basically just automatically, robotically pulls your strings back into tune for you. That's great until you lose the charger and it starts to lose sync. I found that I used to charge it up and then put the battery, which sits in the top of the guitar here, so the battery sort of comes out. But for some reason, it never tunes all the way quite 100% accurately, so that really frustrated me. And I think what I'm going to do with this guitar, I'm going to send it to a guitar specialist, to a guitar shop, and I'm going to get them to remove the G-Force system and just put in a regular set of machine heads. Also because, as you can see, one of them is broken. One of the machine heads actually fell off. It's actually the glue that sort of bound these things together, just basically fell off. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get all of this reworked. I'm going to put new machine heads all in this guitar. It's been on my list of things to do for the last sort of 4 years, so I'll probably get around to doing that soon. But yeah, so that was my first Gibson guitar. I never planned to sell it, but I do plan to modify it as such. So yeah, great guitar. This is an absolute baby of a guitar. This is a Gibson Flying V. What year is it? It is I think it's a 2005 Gibson V. Can't quite tell. But it's an ebony black Gibson Flying V. Some of my heroes played Flying Vs as well. So I had this DVD when I was a teenager of Michael Schenker playing a gig in 2004. And he only used one guitar for the whole gig, and it was a black and white Gibson Flying V, just like this. So I always loved the black and white Gibson Flying V. And also Rob Flynn from Machine Head used a black and white Gibson Flying V. So a lot of my sort of idols used this guitar. So when I saw one of my Facebook friends, Dave, was selling his, paid him a visit and bought it from him. So got a guitar off of Facebook, and yeah, it's actually the most recent guitar I've played and restrung, because it's probably one of my favourite guitars to play. It's just such a lovely neck, and it feels so great, and a great pickups as well. Nothing quite sounds like a Gibson Flying V. A lot comes close, but it's never quite the same as the real thing, the Gibson V. So yeah, the black and white Gibson Flying V, great guitar. This guitar is my favourite. This is probably the most special guitar I own. This is another Gibson Les Paul. There's no surprises there, everyone knows that, but this is quite a special Les Paul. This is a guitar that I kind of always wanted but never thought I'd actually own. Obviously, anyone who's remotely into guitars will know that a 59 Gibson Les Paul, in particular that vintage, was probably the most valuable and most special guitar in the world. And the Gibson Custom Shop started producing recreations of it. So this guitar was made by the Gibson Custom Shop. I think it's in Memphis. Doesn't say, it's got a little Custom Shop sort of plaque on the back there. And what they do basically is they take the original sort of machines and materials and sort of skills that were applied in 1959 and make it again. So it's not made using the modern guitar techniques that the other Gibson Les Paul I have, for example, would be made by. It was made using very old techniques, using very sort of out-of-date sort of materials and things, but to give it the iconic look and sound. I bought this guitar from Andertons in, where is Andertons? It's, God, the place has completely slipped my mind. Guildford. Andertons in Guildford, because I was following their YouTube channel for quite a while. I wanted to visit. I'd already bought a guitar from them previously, actually. This was my second visit to Andertons, because I knew that they sold the true historic guitars. So I went there. They had a wall of about 6 or 7 of these in different finishes, and I chose this one. This is called a Kentucky Bourbon Burst. And what's quite funny is that all the bursts you can choose are all different colours. They all start off the same, which is that one I showed you earlier, the sort of, what they call a cherry sunburst. And depending on how the guitar is aged, gives off this colour. So you get some called a lemon burst, some are called a honey burst. This one's called Kentucky Bourbon. and it plays and sounds like you wouldn't believe. When I play this guitar, play songs on this guitar, it sounds like the record. If you're playing an old Gary Moore song, or old Fleetwood Mac song, or old Led Zeppelin song, you get that proper 59 Gibson sound. And yeah, I'm absolutely smitten with it. I love it to bits. So 100%, this is a guitar I will never sell. It's a guitar I'll keep. I say that, I've never sold a guitar in my life. Not once have I ever sold a guitar. Every guitar I've ever owned in my life, I still own. That's probably why I've got so many of them. I've got over 20. But this is by far the most special guitar to me. This guitar is the last Gibson I'm going to show you today. This is a 2017 Gibson SG. I bought this at the beginning of 2017, January I think it was, or January, in February. So obviously I have no hesitation telling people that my favourite idol growing up as a guitar player was Angus Young from AC/DC. That band inspired me to pick up a guitar. There's a particular concert I used to watch as a kid, which was AC/DC Live at Donington, which was filmed in 1991 at the Donington Monsters of Rock Festival. And Angus Young's running around on stage, and he played one guitar the entire gig, which was a black on black Gibson SG. And I just thought it was so cool. Before I even knew what a Gibson was, what an electric guitar was, I knew what this was. And so as soon as I got myself in a position where I could afford to buy one, I bought one. There's something about the all black bodywork and this little pinstriping that goes around the half sort of cut scratch plate, and then the white binding that goes up the neck. It just looks so classic to me. I will admit, it is built in the era where Gibson were going to a bit of trouble, so it's not the best finished guitar. It doesn't feel as quality as my other Gibson SG, for example, which is an older guitar. And as a result, I don't actually tend to play it that much. I don't really tend to play this Gibson SG that much, but I just bought it because it meant something to me as a child. And I still watched that AC/DC concert. I even watched it like 2 weeks ago. Because it's such a special sort of concert for me. It got me into rock music and guitar and things like that. So I bought this guitar as a tribute to that, really, to satisfy my inner child. So there we go, 2017 Gibson SG Standard in ebony. So a few more guitars to show you guys. That guitar is actually my housemate's guitar, but I'll show you that anyway. So this is his Gibson SG. I think they call it a Gibson SG Special, which is sort of the entry level to Gibson. Great guitar, and playing it, close your eyes, you'd really struggle to tell whether you were playing an entry level Gibson or a top model, especially in SG form. That's a great guitar, but again, it's not mine, it's my housemate's. This guitar's quite cool. So back when I was a teenager and Gibson was nothing but a dream, you have this Epiphone. Epiphone is the sort of the economy brand for Gibson, so they don't make the guitars in America. Nowadays, all Epiphones are built in China, I believe, but there was a period in the 2000s where they built them in Korea. And when they were built in Korea, the quality was sensational, to the point where it was actually affecting the sales of the American-made guitars. So they actually changed production from Korea to China. So the Chinese guitars, they could build them probably more cheaply and better volume, but they were never quite the quality of these earlier Korean-made Epiphone guitars. So this is an Epiphone Les Paul from 2004, and it feels and sounds, well, not quite sounds, but plays like a genuine Gibson Les Paul. So what I tend to do with these is I've got two of these. I've got another one in the Cherry Burst. This one's a Tobacco Burst, but I tend to put Gibson pickups in them. So I take the Epiphone guitar, which is a beautiful construction, beautiful body, and then I put the Gibson humbucker pickups in it to give it the Gibson sound. So this is a Tobacco Burst Epiphone Les Paul Standard from 2004. As you can see, it's quite beaten up. It's had quite a hard life. I've had this guitar for maybe 10 years. I bought it off eBay for, I think it was 150 quid, an absolute steal. And it's a great quality guitar, plays really nicely, sounds really great. And yeah, it was actually the first guitar I brought with me to Bristol because it was fairly inexpensive and plays just as good as anything else. So when I was renting a room in Bristol, when I first moved down here, this was the guitar I brought with me. This guitar is quite interesting. This is a Fender Strat, but not a Fender Strat as we know it. This is quite a rare Fender Strat because it's made in Korea. We just talked about Korean guitars, so the Korea's quite a known place for guitar manufacturing because they build such good quality guitars. They're sort of a happy medium between being the hand-built American-made guitar with the labour cost saving to the contrast of a high-volume production Chinese-built guitar. It's sort of a happy medium. And for a brief time in the late 80s and 1990s, Fender had a production facility in Korea and they were knocking these things out. So this is a late 80s Fender Stratocaster Custom in the vintage white, which is lovely sort of off-white sort of cream colour, which is my favourite colour for the Fender Strat. It's got the black scratch plate, Seymour Duncan single coil pickups, and this lovely bird's eye maple neck. Not quite sure if you can see that on the camera, but the neck is this lovely sort of bird's eye maple sort of knotted wood. And it's a 24 fret guitar with mother of pearl inlays, and it's quite iconic because of the single Fender logo. Most Fenders have Fender and they have the model and the details written adjacent to that. This one just has the plain headstock with the Fender logo stuck in there. So it's quite cool. Then on the back there, it's got the serial number and the Korean stamp, which dates it to somewhere between 87 and 89. But yeah, great guitar. I'm not a massive Fender person, but everyone has to have a Fender Strat. This guitar is really cool. It's going to blind you because I've got the torch on the camera, and it's got a chrome scratch plate. This is a Squier Telecaster, so a fairly inexpensive guitar. So Squier to Fender is what Epiphone is to Gibson. So Squier is the sort of the entry brand for the Fender Guitar Company, who obviously invented the Telecaster and the Stratocaster. So this guitar is quite special because this is the signature guitar from a guitarist called John Five. John Five is the guitarist for Marilyn Manson. I like Marilyn Manson a lot. I like the riffs, but I always liked John Five's guitar that I always used, which was typically a black Telecaster, double humbuckers, and this beautiful chrome sort of hardware, including the scratch plate. This guitar was actually my brother's. My brother bought this guitar brand new, and then he wanted to trade it in for another guitar that he wanted to buy, but couldn't get the money he wanted from in trade from the guitar shop. So I bought this guitar for my brother, and because I always like playing it, and it's a proper metal machine. It's got a great sound to it. It's not a contoured body. It's a completely flat sort of body shape. It's got this lovely binding to it. It's really well made. It's got a lovely rosewood fretboard. And yeah, I do plan to own a proper Fender Telecaster at some stage. It's probably the next guitar on the list, is to have like a natural wood finish Telecaster. But because of course Telecaster sound is in those that lipstick bar sort of pickup and the single coil. But this is a great sort of alternative guitar with the humbuckers in it. So love this thing to bits. Quite Les Paul style with the double humbuckers and the pickup selector in the top there. But yeah, great guitar. This is from 2009, I think, this guitar. On to the next one. I bought this guitar again off of a Facebook ad that I saw on Facebook Marketplace. This is an early Chapman. It's actually one of the really early Chapman ML1 guitars when Chapman sort of first started producing guitars. It is Korean made once again, and it's got the original sort of Monkey Lord approved logo on the back of the headstock, which Rob Chapman used to put on his early guitars. So Chapman ML1 is what it's called. The guitar weighs a ton. I was surprised when I went to go see it. I thought it'd be like a light sort of Fender Strat or Ibanez RG sort of body. It's not. It is a really heavy, solid guitar. Yeah, I find it a bit strange to play. I find the neck profile quite wide, which I found surprising for a Super Strat. But it's got a great sound to it, and it's got the sort of the push pot sort of control knobs as well, which are now quite commonplace on a modern guitar. But yeah, it was a guitar I saw advertised at a good price. I couldn't resist, and it was a nice quality guitar as well, as you can see by the binding around the body and the lovely contour of it as well. So yeah, a Chapman ML1, which was my second Chapman. I actually had Chapman before this, and I'm going to come on to that guitar now. So this is my first Chapman. So I was a subscriber to the YouTube channel Anderton's TV for quite a while. I always liked the charismatic sort of Captain Lee and the Rob Chapman noodling away on the guitars. And I was always intrigued because they're always reviewing the Chapman range, and I thought it was quite an interesting guitar series. So I went to Anderton's to check it out, and I played this guitar, which attracted me the most because I don't actually have an Explorer-shaped guitar, which is this sort of zigzag shape. And I picked it up and I played it, and it's obviously a very well set up guitar, but I couldn't believe how well it played. And it was an expensive guitar, it's well over £1,000. So it wasn't a cheap guitar. But I picked up and played it, and I was so blown away by the sound it made, how easy it was to play, the way my fingers just sort of rolled up and down the frets. I had to own it. So I bought the guitar there and then. So this model is a Chapman Ghost Fret Pro, which is the sort of the professional series from Chapman, so the slightly more expensive guitars. And it's got this lovely satin finish. I typically don't like satin, but on this guitar I do. As you can see, it's like a flame top grey. I think they call it lunar grey sort of finish. And the way the neck comes down all the way through the middle of the guitar is superb. I really love that, and it just feels quality. And yeah, it's one of my favourite guitars to play. So I actually did a little post on Instagram sort of claiming my wonder for this guitar when I bought it, and actually got retweeted, is that the phrase, but sort of resent round by Chapman themselves, which was great. And I think they sent me a packet of strings as well, so thank you. But yeah, great guitar. So if you haven't played a Chapman, go try one out. They are fantastic. So yeah, Chapman Ghost Fret Pro. And when did I buy this one? I bought this guitar, that would have been 2016, maybe 2017. I can't remember. Maybe a bit later than that, maybe 2018. But yeah, great guitar. So moving on to Dean. Dean's one of my favourite guitar manufacturers because another of my idols growing up was Dimebag Darrell from Pantera, and he always played some sort of crazy Dean. So Dean is an American guitar company. The Deans I have aren't American made. I've got 3 Deans, which I'm going to show you. One's Chinese and the other 2 are Korean. Again, like most guitar manufacturers, they have an entry level, which is the Chinese made guitar, which I have 1. And they do like an intermediate level, which is Korean built guitars, which I have 2, and they do a Dean USA built guitar, but they are thousands of pounds, and I don't love them that much to spend that kind of money on one, especially as I'm so satisfied with the quality of this. So this is called a Dean ML79 reissue. I think it was made in about 2003, I think it says on there. So it's quite an old guitar, but it's just so simplistic. It's got a straight bridge on it. I know Dimebag had the Floyd Rose tremolo systems, but I'm a very straightforward guitar player, so all of my guitars, apart from one, which we'll see in a minute, have the straight bridge. It's got the sort of the zebra style humbuckers, beautiful profile of neck. Again, much like that Chapman Ghost Fret I just showed you, it's got a lovely profile to the neck. And again, it's in that lovely colour that I like, the cherry sort of sunburst flame top finish to match my Les Paul. So yeah, that was a great guitar. I bought this guitar back when I was working for Halfords. So God, how long ago was that? 10 years ago I bought this guitar off of eBay. And what a great buy it was. I've had many people come and offer me money for it and buy it back off me, but I don't think I'll ever sell it. It has been modified. Whoever owned the guitar before put these sort of skull and crossbones sort of guitar tuner, guitar knobs, volume knobs and tone knobs, but I don't mind it. I think it looks great, and yeah, definitely a keeper. So from one crazy Dean to another, this is actually one of the Dime series. This is one of the guitars directly linked to Dimebag Darrell. This is called the Razorback, and it's very similar to the ML that I showed you. It's got more of an aggressive sort of body style. It's very, very aggressive, and it's got a Floyd Rose bridge as well. So I bought this guitar because it was really cheap. It's a Chinese-made Dean guitar. I bought it used, again, about a similar sort of time, about 10 years ago, and it wasn't expensive. I think I paid something like 100 and odd quid for it, and I got it, and then I realised why it's so cheap. It doesn't play at all well. It feels really cumbersome. I think this one's tuned to drop C, but yeah, it just feels really, really sort of cumbersome. The quality doesn't feel there. So I never really bothered playing it again, and I have never played it since. People ask me, well, why don't you just sell it? Again, it's quite right, it's relatively inexpensive. If someone came to my house and offered me the money for it, I'd probably sell it, but I just can't be asked with the hassle of advertising it and shipping it and posting it out. I'd just rather sort of keep it, because it is a great looking guitar. There's no denying that. It's definitely a statement. So I just have it sort of on the wall as a sort of conversation piece, really, rather than actual guitar. As you can tell by the dust on it, I never play it. There you go. That is a Chinese-made Dean Razorback. Go try and move all these guitars around because they're all sort of lumped around in the corner here. And then I've got this Dean guitar as well. This is a Dean V. So some of you recognise this straight away. This is the signature guitar for one of my favourite guitar players, Michael Schenker, who was the guitar player in such bands like UFO, the Michael Schenker Group, and his brother was Rudy Schenker from the Scorpions and things. So he's a great guitar player. Always played a Flying V. Started out with Gibsons, like the one I showed you over my shoulder. And then he was endorsed and signed up to Dean Guitars, where they did this lovely series of guitars for him. This is sort of the iconic sort of black and white, but it's done with the straight through design. So rather than splitting the black and white across the guitar, they basically draw a line right through the middle of the guitar. Half the guitar's black, half the guitar's white. And that goes right up to the headstock as well, where you've got the insignia of the Michael Schenker sort of signature. And even on the back, that division line goes right through the neck, right down the body of the guitar. And that is really, really cool. I really wanted one of these. I did a lot of research and decided I wanted to buy a Korean-made Michael Schenker Signature V. I went round and realised that they stopped making them. They actually discontinued this model in the year that I bought it, which was 2016. I think it was 2016, maybe 2017, discontinued it. So I had to shop around and eventually found a place that sold it and ordered it online and got it delivered. One thing I wasn't expecting is the very thick profile neck. The Gibson Flying V has a very thin sort of low action neck, whereas this guitar feels like more of a Les Paul sort of neck. It feels quite wide, which I found quite surprising, but you get used to it. But yeah, it's a great guitar. I need to restring it. I need to start playing it again because I haven't played it in a long time. I don't think I've played this guitar for over a year, so I definitely need to get it restrung, get it reset up, and get it working again. It is a great guitar. And I've got one more guitar to show you before I cut this video short here, because I'll do a second part of the video when I get the other guitars over here another time later in the year. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. But I've got one more guitar to show you, which is the most recent guitar I bought. It is another Epiphone of the Korean variety. It's another Korean-made guitar. This is from 2005, and I've always loved the white Les Paul, but the white Les Paul Gibson Customs are like £3,000 or £4,000, and I just thought no. So I bought an Epiphone one. I wanted to go for an old Epiphone one, so it had the Korean quality, and it's got the gold hardware. I found this on a Facebook ad in Bristol, and made a lowball offer and got it. So there we go. It's a great guitar. Again, it plays and feels just like a Gibson. I love playing it a lot, and it's got a really wide body as well. It's a lovely sort of flat, beautiful binding as well. The later ones don't have this sort of detail that they put on the Korean built ones with this sort of the binding with the sort of layers. It looks really, really smart. Great quality guitar. Yeah, I'm really glad I got this one. It's actually played quite a lot because it's still got quite fresh strings on it. So I was actually playing this guitar yesterday. I played on that live feed I did last week. Yeah, so another great guitar. So I'll do a part 2 of my other guitars. I've got another couple of Strats. I've got another couple of Les Pauls, including another Les Paul Custom, which I want to show you guys. I've got another Flying V. Yeah, I've got loads of other guitars. So I'll do a second part, follow-up part 2 video of Guitar Tour. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully we can do another video in the music room again at some point, because obviously I love music. I've got a drum kit behind me as well, an electronic Roland drum kit. So maybe I might do some guitar and drum covers. Maybe if there's any songs you want to hear, let me know, and I'll give it a try and post something up. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye for now.